Hello, I'm Rob.
And I'm also Rob.
And welcome to Marmalade, the Geek Show's monthly look back at the games we've been playing, whatever they might be.
He does intros well. So well.
I know. Well, literally, that's what Marmalade is. It's just basically... we chose the name Marmalade because, obviously, there are gaming jams all over the place, and we thought, well, Marmalade is also a thing, and we like Marmalade. Or I like Marmalade.
Because you're an old woman. I think I'll jump in first.
Yeah.
Because we had a month off last month because,
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to do this every month when maybe you haven't had the time to play stuff. Yes, so the first one I want to talk about, it's not going to take a long time, honestly. There's not a great deal to say about it. And you think, well, actually, this is one of these things where I'm not going to talk about it for long, and then I'm not going to say much about it, and then 20 minutes later I'm still talking about it. Always happens. But it's the 2016 remake of Ratchet and Clank, which I got as part of the Play at Home initiative, which PlayStation are currently running. I think there's like 10 games between Ratchet and Clank, Horizon Zero Dawn, complete, and a lot of indies. I want to play Subnautica out of those indies, so I'll talk about that in a future episode. But yeah, Ratchet and Clank 2016 was the first one. And there's a very big divide in this game. I think it's actually the Ratchet and Clank which made me not give an absolute rat's ass about Ratchet and Clank anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
One thing I know about Rob is that there are certain games which he is an absolute die-hard fan of. Ratchet and Clank was always one of them.
I've played pretty much most of them.
Yeah.
The reason for it is, I know this was sort of released as part of their failed attempt to make a Ratchet and Clank animated sort of Pixar kids movie. So the animation on everything is gorgeous, especially now on the PlayStation 5. Now it's got that 60 frames per second hoo-ha.
Yeah.
But it plays beautifully.
Mm.
But at the same time, it plays exactly the same as Ratchet and Clank has always played. I know that it's kind of having... It's okay having that sort of familiarity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't know, it just comes a point when you think, I don't want to play the next Ratchet and Clank because I fit outside of the sort of the dimension pulling stuff. I feel like I've already played it, And this was the game where it really sank in, that revelation.
Okay, yeah, I get it.
And also, the story, the dialogue, the delivery is awful. Oh my god. It's like worst I've seen in years awful.
Is this one of those games where it was subject to a certain degree of interference from higher-ups who believe they know better?
I don't know about that, but essentially, the whole point of Ratchet and Clank series is that through the run of the series, Ratchet and Clank become best buds.
Yeah.
You know how it happens in this? Ratchet calls Clank buddy, and then the best friends now.
That's not how it happened in the original one.
And it's really awkward. It's like, you just met him and you're best friends and all you do is call him buddy, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? This is so... This is basically, right, they took the script and then just took all the pages out and then left it. And all I've got left is the bits with Captain Quark.
Please, sir, I have a question. Just
Sure.
How lonely was Ratchet that he immediately made Clank his best bud upon meeting him?
I don't know. And honestly, I think you don't learn that Clank is a defect warbot until a good few games in. And in this, you immediately know the first time you see him, he's in a warbot factory and he's running away from a big warbot. It's just all over the place. I mean, I'm not going to be one of those people who sort of goes, oh, but that's not how it happened. I'm basically like one step off release the Snyder Cut people there. But at the same time, it's just, it condenses so much story into such a small space and basically removes all of the detail of anything. I mean, everybody's a cardboard cutout. I know it's a cartoon, so you'd effectively, in cartoon characters, you have this idea that cartoon characters are like kiddie cutouts. But in this, they really are cutouts.
See, I don't have that idea, but then again, I watch a lot more animation than the majority of people on the planet. Do you know what this sounds like? You remember those Hollywood remakes of classic movies, real dyed-in-the-wool classics that for some reason they decided to do a modern version of. The modern version of Get Carter, for example.
Oh yeah, they did that, didn't it? It was with Sylvester Stallone, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that lacked any of the it lacked any of the panache and any of the grit of the original Get Carter. And then, what was it? They did the modern version of Alfie with Jude Law, which lacked any of the charm or charisma of the original version. And I know I picked 2 Michael Caine movies there, but they seem to want to remake his entire...
Yeah, but honestly, it plays beautifully, but it's soulless. It's so soulless. And that, I mean, it'd have to pretty much make Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart a timeless masterpiece for me to give a damn at this point. And as even being a fan of Ratchet and Clank, I'd never call any of them a timeless masterpiece.
Yeah.
I think this one kind of broke my back as far as this. I'm a camel, and this one broke me back.
It kind of sounds like what they did with Spyro. Remember when they did the new version of Spyro on the PlayStation 2? I think it was Spyro New Beginning. It was all right, but it wasn't a patch on the original PlayStation Spyro games. And then they didn't actually up their game until the second game, which I think was Day of the Dragon.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, it's a game without any substance.
Yeah.
And this game really sort of laid bare the dynamics of what makes a Ratchet and Clank game. Plonk them on some new planets, different funky weapons, that's it. And I know that's effectively what they've all been, but it's that soul, that substance that makes them worth playing. And when you remove the substance, you realise what you're actually been playing all this time.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I've got a bit lofty, and I've talked about this for longer than I wanted to, but you know.
No, look, I get it. Okay, I'm going to relate it back to movies for a second, right? And I know you're not a fan of the franchise, but I am, so I'm relating it to that. The Lethal Weapon movies. Yes, I know Mel Gibson is a bit of a whatever you want to call him.
He's a bit of a Mel Gibson, Rob.
Yeah, he's a bit of a Mel Gibson. The movies themselves were actually a lot of fun. The first one, was kind of action with a little bit of comedy in, but then they got more and more comedic as they went along, and it was more about the relationship between Riggs and Murtaugh, and Riggs is basically being an extended part of Murtaugh's family, and then eventually getting his own family, and it was about that dynamic between the two of them, how the two of them ended up as this old married couple who could finish each other's sentences. And that's how I've always envisioned something like Ratchet and Clank, or Jack and Daxter and stuff like that, where you have these two characters and they're basically in a really close buddy relationship, and they rely on each other, but they basically tease each other and take the piss out of each other.
Yeah, the relationship grows over the games, and this is just, we're best buds now. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah, and there's no effort in that.
No, there isn't. Looks gorgeous.
Yeah.
As well as ever, but when you get the substance removed, it's really kind of sad what's left over.
That's a shame.
Pick it up from that downer, eh? Pick it up.
I am going to pick it up from that downer because I finally, right? And this is a game that I've been basically meaning to play for, 7 years? Came out in 2013. Came out late 2013 on the PlayStation 3, and I think the Vita as well, and it came out on the PlayStation 4 more recently. But I've been waiting to play Doki Doki Universe for a long, long time, and I never got around to it. I always meant to play it and always forgot, and always meant to play it and always forgot, and it just kept going like that, and I kept forgetting, because I really liked the look of Doki Doki Universe, and I really liked the trailer for it. It engaged.
I'll be honest, and I know this kind of undermines my point when I say it on the video. The video will have the gameplay playing, and me saying, I don't know what it is, makes me sound like an idiot. But we don't have the footage here as we're recording this, so I'm going to ask it anyway. What is it? I've never heard of it, I'll be honest.
Right. See, this is the thing. Doki Doki Universe, it's a very, very strange game about what it means to be human, and about human relationships, and right, in a sense, Doki Doki Universe is a personality quiz, a personality test made into a video game, kind of, right? It's a game all about side quests, effectively, right? And within those side quests,
you should never be a PR guy for video games. You are not selling this.
The thing is, it's a bizarre game to try and explain, right? You play it as a robot called QT3, right? And you have been told that unless you can figure out what it means to be human, you're going to be reprogrammed. And you've been told this by this alien. Basically, you've been abandoned by your parents, and you've been given this mission, and this alien is basically helping you go from planet to planet. And on these planets, you're basically helping the characters that you meet on these planets, human and otherwise. You're helping them with little odd jobs, and you basically can create pretty much anything you can imagine. And I will use that term very loosely, right? Within the boundaries of the game, you can create anything that you imagine to basically help these people. So somebody who's feeling cold, you can basically give them, a match or a fire or a burning building to help them keep warm. There are options there. But the ultimate upshot, it's repetitive as hell, right? It really is repetitive as hell. And you notice that pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And that is one of the things why I kind of went off the game a little bit, but when I went back to it, because I played it, and then I started thinking, this is just repetitions and repetitions and repetitions, but I may have been a bit tired on the day that I played it, and then when I went back to continue playing it, I thought, this is actually better than I thought, because I started getting more into it, and more into the personality side of things, because I started doing personality tests, and surprisingly, they were reasonably accurate. Sometimes they were wildly different to, how I know I am. But the rest of it was actually pretty close.
Okay.
You frame all of that within a game where you meet interesting characters, it has an interesting art style, and you learn more about human nature and more about yourself within the frame of a game where you basically just go around doing random stuff for people, right? And I kind of love it for that. It's like somebody at some point from the developers, I don't know how they've managed to do this, but they had this weird idea of say, what would be fun in a game, a personality test. Let's mix that with some human philosophy, and let's make a game out of it. And like,
is there something weird in this water?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Are you smoking something? Was there something in those cupcakes? And like, no, it can really work, and it really does. Like I said, it's repetitive as hell. And
if it's repetitive as hell, and it's about philosophy, that's not helping dissuade the ideas that it was done by someone who were off the guard. They were completely off their guard when they made this.
See, that's the thing. It shouldn't work. And
you've not said anything that convinces me that it does work. Honestly,
it does, because it's got right. The characters and the art style have their own charm and uniqueness, and your interactions with the characters are actually pretty interesting, and that's what makes the game continue to take over. I mean, when I say repetitive, you basically go from one planet to another, just basically doing the same stuff over and over again. Odd jobs for random people. And, maybe they're fetch quests, maybe they're helping people do whatever. Don't matter. Because at the end of the day, and I think part of the reason why I kind of love it is because we're coming on the back of all these lockdowns. And I think Doki Doki Universe is one of those games where it is the perfect game to play during lockdown, because it's got that sense of human interaction to it.
So it's basically the video game equivalent of me sitting for hours watching Rambleack videos.
Yeah, basically. Basically, if you're lacking human contact, if you from the lockdown, and you're missing going out with your friends, Doki Doki Universe is kind of the perfect game for that scenario. I can't really say more about it. I mean, I think I played it at the perfect time for me to play it. I think if I played it at any other time, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much as I did this time.
Yeah, that's fine. Right, moving on. You want me to have a positive opinion of a video game? Move over, sister. Not this week.
Not this month, even.
Not this month, right. Number 2 is a game which I was looking forward to from the second it was announced, really. It's a Polish game based in a version of alternative European history in which World War II didn't end when it was supposed to, and it lasted longer and made a bit of a wasteland out of mainland Europe. That game is Paradise Lost. Now, when I first saw it, I thought, ooh, this looks interesting. It looks like it could have some sort of survival horror vibe to it as you sort of wander through the embers of a broken Europe.
Yeah, I have to ask, does it bear any relation to the poem?
Not having read the poem, being an uneducated Philistine like I am, I couldn't possibly say, Rob. So for the sake of safety, I'm just going to say yes.
I mean, the poem was done in 1674 by John Milton, so I don't think it did.
There was wars around then, Rob.
There was
plenty of wars. But anyway, Project. No, you got me confused now. Paradise Lost. And what it is a walking simulator. A walking simulator in which you play a young lad who goes through this huge bunker. Absolutely huge. And all he's got in his pocket is a picture with his recently deceased mum and a man in an area with a number 4 on it. And you've got to go through this huge bunker. And I don't mean like a little huge bunker like, it's got like maybe a tuck shop or something in it. I mean, huge bunker as in it's effectively a small town in a bunker. And you go from area to area to area to area. And in the second area of the 4, you meet a young... Well, you don't meet. You interact with a voice, a disembodied voice. And around that time, it also starts introducing title cards. Like title cards that go through like the stages of grief. Like anger and bargaining is what I've been through so far. Looking at the trophies is also acceptance and other things. So yeah, it's gone through the 7 stages. I think it was 7 stages.
Something like that, yeah.
Of grief. But honestly, I don't know. I'm kind of done with walking simulators. Because what this entails is lots of... Because you can't run, and you think... And you've been programmed by games that you run through everywhere when it's taken a long time. And he has sort of walking, like, Chipper Amble.
See, I hate to say it, but Chipper Amble sounds like an American sports commentator.
It does, doesn't it? It's such an American name. But yeah, it's lots of walking through empty places. And don't get me wrong, the thing that really works for walking simulators is the fact that you get to luxuriate in the world design and the world building and tell stories through what's happening in the world. And it does some good stuff there. But also like something interesting to do.
Yeah.
Walking simulators, I think, get a pass when they do something fantastical. When everybody's going to the Rapture does something really interesting. Firewatch, What Remains of Edith Finch. These are like walking simulator games in which you are put in a situation which provides you with some weird moments to really get lost in. Whereas in Paradise Lost, it's good if you're into sort of alternative European history, because effectively the entire bunker is vacated. There's trains, there's suitcases that have been left. So something has happened. Something has got rid of all of the people. But at the same time, you're just walking through nothing.
See, that sort of thing, it would have been nice if you could actually, if rather than a walking simulator, it was more of an exploration simulator. So you could open the. No,
you can open stuff. You can look at make pieces of paper which tell you.
Yeah, but that's all.
There's a few audio things that you interact with.
But that's all like on rails from the game, though, isn't it?
To an extent, yeah.
And what I'm talking about is more of an open world exploration thing where you can basically, you're in the. So imagine the scenario instead. You're in the bunker, and okay, maybe you encounter the disembodied voice at times. But the rest of it is just basically you're able to open everything, you're able to read everything, and I know there'll be a lot of work involved in that, but you have total freedom to go wherever you want and read whatever you want, interact with whatever you want,
Honestly, what I think would have been better for it? If it
Wolfenstein.
No. Although there is a bit where you walk past guns and I thought, why can't I pick these up? And... he's a kid. Nobody's going to tell him off.
Yeah.
And on that note, he puts everything back sort of perfect and neat. Ooh, I don't want to upset anybody that might find this random piece of paper that I found in his dead vacated bunker. And the same bloody climbing animation, time and time and time again. Get quicker at climbing, doofus. It's so frustrating and sort of slow. But I think it's just me in walking simulators. We're not really. I'm a square hole. That's a round peg.
Yeah, it's historical fantasy kind of, and it does seem to echo Wolfenstein a little bit. The new Wolfenstein games, that is.
The new Wolfenstein is very much in the fantasy of cybernetic dogs and cyber bodies and all these weird things, whereas this is sort of science, World War fantasy in the sense of the war didn't end when it was supposed to. And
is it more steampunk than anything else?
No, it's completely based in real life.
All right, okay.
It's very much the sort of fantasy where it just asks the question, what if the World War didn't end in 1945?
All right, okay.
What would happen to Poland? But at the end of the day, I think it's just that point. Walking simulators, I think they need to be a little bit more fantastical to actually be compelling.
Yeah.
There was other ways to tell this story. I mean, don't get me wrong, the world design is great, the voice acting is strong. It sets up like a nice little mystery, but it's just walking and walking and walking. You need to do it in a very, very varied set of circumstances and a very varied set of places for that to really be compelling. Just to go through a bunker from zone to zone to zone, isn't that?
Would this have been better off as a VR game? As a VR experience,
yeah,
I should say.
It would have been a bit better. A bit shorter, yeah. A shorter version of this as a VR game, I think, would have worked better for what it is.
Okay.
Pick up the mood from that. In fact, my last one's pretty down as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully you have 3 up games.
Kind of don't, but since your last one is a downer as well, I'll save the one I was going to do till last. And instead, I'll talk about Tales of the Neon Sea. This is, available already on PC. It came out in 2019, and it's a bit of a throwback, this game. You play as Rex, who is a private detective, and you used to be on the police force till something happened in the past, and now you're working as a private detective, kind of a washed-out private detective. And you start the game off, right, in the sewers, and you're looking for parts to replace so you can actually move around. You need a leg part and a hand part because you've been severely injured because of some incident. And there's some psycho robotic type thing wearing a cowl and carrying a side that floats around and appears and disappears. And that initial part is really, really annoying because it doesn't tell you anything. It doesn't give you any instructions or anything like that on what to do. You just have to figure it out yourself. And I died like 6 or 7 times before I finally figured out what I was doing. So, yeah, once you get your body parts, you basically, you have a cat friend, and then it goes back in time to kind of how everything started. So the prologue ends, and then it goes into the actual story itself. And you wake up in your bed at your house, still as Rex, and you are confronted by your house robot butler type thing called BBX, who tells you that you need to replace various cybernetic parts in your body, otherwise they're going to wear out. Turns out BBX needs parts as well, so you have to try and find parts for your robot. Meanwhile, you're being pestered by a cat. Can't remember what the cat's name is off the top of my head. Is it Gary or Larry or something like that?
Doesn't matter. It's a little monster. All cats that pester people are.
Yeah. I know it's not Jeff, because Jeff is the name of the alien in Doki Doki universe, so I know it's not Jeff.
Okay.
But anyway, the cat is pestering you, and the cat belongs to a woman called Mrs. Perry. And this is where kind of everything starts off. This world in Tales of the Neon Sea, this city, is in the middle of an election, and for the first time ever, they have a robot candidate, and there's this tension between robots and humans, and it does kind of play into the whole idea of robots versus humans. Can they coexist or not? Yada yada yada. Not going to go into that. The story goes into it a bit more. It does have puzzle elements in there that you have to solve as you're going around, and the puzzles can become increasingly more complex. It also has kind of a Batman Arkham-like investigation mode, so you can investigate crime scenes, and then you can basically put the clock pieces back together, rewind time, and play through the scenario that you've uncovered. And what you basically have to do is navigate through this seemingly simple, but, this seemingly simple story that starts off with the death of the cat's owner, Mrs. Perry, who you find by accident because the cat has found her.
Okay.
And it all starts from there. From there, you go on to certain unusual objects attached to robot brains and various things like that. And it all gets very, very strange.
That'd have been such a better name than, what's this called?
Tales of the Neon Sea.
That's a terrible name. Strange Objects Attached to Robot Brains is a much better name.
See, I think it's called Tales of the Neon Sea because the developers are trying to get that kind of 1920s private detective story vibe in something that is effectively a cyberpunk type story. It
sounds like a cheap pulp novel.
It is a cheap pulp novel, but the reason why I say it's a throwback is because it's a 2D perspective and it looks like a 2D platform game. It's basically a 2D adventure game, right? Not point and click, just a plain 2D adventure game.
Just to clarify, calling something cheap pulp adventure isn't a compliment. It's about as far away from a compliment as you can get.
It is a cheap pulp adventure. It has all of the hallmarks of a cheap pulp adventure. It's done actually quite well as a cheap pulp adventure in the form of a video game. Better than a lot of the ones that I've seen, right? I wouldn't say it's the best, but it is up there with the better ones. The aesthetic, obviously, it's the cyberpunk aesthetic, which I've seen in all sorts of other things. Not the cyberpunk 2077 thing is nowhere near as slick as that. This is all pixel art and everything like that. The weird thing is, I kind of prefer Cloudpunk to Tales of the Neon Sea in terms of just the overall vibe the game gives me. I think I preferred Cloudpunk's freedom.
Can I say this? Am I allowed to say this? Can we move on from Cyberpunk already?
Yeah. This is the thing. I preferred Cloudpunk's freedom and the ability to move around the city and then go down onto street level and walk around the street.
Yeah, the whole thing I got from Cyberpunk is vast open cities, isolated people, lots of red light districts, and lots of crime. I don't think you can really do that in a place which doesn't have that sort of openness.
See, that's the thing. Tales of the Neon Sea, it's trying to make the environment feel enclosed and claustrophobic, almost like a Blade Runner-esque type vibe.
But Blade Runner felt massive and open, both of them.
To a degree, yeah. But when it was on street level, it felt very claustrophobic.
Yes, because it's a street. That's what streets are supposed to be.
And that's what Tales of the Neon Sea is going for, and it kind of achieves that, but it also doesn't. Right, there's a certain thing, colour usage, yeah? When you make something too bright, it becomes almost cartoonish, but when you make it too dark...
it becomes a bit cartoonish as well, honestly.
Yeah, it also becomes cartoonish. That's one of the reasons why I couldn't take Man of Steel seriously, because it was just too dark. The colour-corrected version of Man of Steel...
Oh, yeah, I remember you showing me that, yeah.
Yeah, it works so much better, it's so much... You take the story much more seriously in the color, just by correcting the colour and making the colour unmuted and less grey.
I mean, look at... it's completely off topic here, but Invincible, the Amazon Prime series.
Yeah.
Super colourful, and it tells such a unique and complete story.
Yeah.
It doesn't think, moody, so let's have no colour. It's all dark and doom. Let's do it in the CSI thing. The CSI palette, where New York is grey and Miami is like rainbow.
What was that black and white film that won an Oscar a couple of years ago? The Artist or something like that? Can you imagine Zack Snyder's version of that? It would just be a black screen.
You don't want to invoke the Snyders, Rob. The Snyder fans have gone full crazy.
I don't care about the Snyder fans. I don't care about Zack Snyder. I mean,
and there's this thing on social media now, right, where apparently a movie can't do justice to a full story unless it's 4 hours long. There's people complaining that the Mortal Kombat movie, quotation marks here, is just 2 hours. It can't do the entire gallery of characters justice. Like,
can I just point out, it's Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
It's like the pulpiest of pulp fiction. It is the trashiest of trash fiction. It doesn't even deserve an hour movie, and yet we're getting a 2-hour one. And you know what? I'm going to enjoy every minute of those 2 hours because it looks like they've done justice to the game for a change. Look, all I'm going to say is, Tales of the Neon Sea, the reason I say it's the throwback is because it reminds me of games I used to play back in the early 90s, like Beneath the Steel Sky and stuff like that. It's very much that type of game. You don't see that type of game around a lot these days.
There's one game which I think you will absolutely adore, which is coming out soon. I think it's debuting on Games Pass. It's a noir mystery stealth game called Bonehead, and I need to play it now. It looks awesome.
That one, that game, what was it, Sense, Cyberpunk Ghost Story? I'm planning on playing that next month because I've finally got a copy of that, so I'm going to give that a try, see what I think of it. Tales of the Neon Sea is a perfectly serviceable game. It just feels a bit too old school for some people, that's all.
Right, let's pick this party up and talk about an exciting, cool, invigorating game. Nah, not really. I'm sorry.
Okay, what are we talking about now?
Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Rise of the Tomb Raider. I liked it, but I would never ever say that it had a memorable story. I didn't play it that long ago. It was within the last 9 months, I'd say. But the start of this, I'm like, Uzi, what's going on? What's happening? It needed a previously on Tomb Raider at the beginning of it, because honestly, I don't know what's happening.
Hang on. See, when you said, Uzi, what's going on? You just sounded like Lara Croft's grandma. Just
Yeah, I'm happy. I'd happily be Lara Croft's grandma, because I'd be loaded, wouldn't I? But
it's just like, she's brought some random guy home again. He's like, Uzi, what's he doing?
Well, my point is, the story isn't a strong point of these games. So no. I don't know what's going on. It doesn't even care about the story, let's be honest. It's Trinity. Trinity are bad. They're after a thing. Lara Croft won't stop them doing a thing. There we go. Go to a new place.
What does Neo have to say about this?
I don't know, but you got your friend Jonah, who's your cook and your best friend, and yeah. I think the problem here is that the reason why I liked Rise of the Tomb Raider was because it made you feel like you were really adventuring, and the combat was really, really solid.
Yeah.
What I didn't like about I played the original Tomb Raider, like going way back, the original Tomb Raider, 1, 2 and 3.
PlayStation 1, yeah.
Yeah, once it got past that, it started to get a little bit too invested in its own puzzles.
Yeah, and its own supernatural mythos as well. What was it? Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness, and what was the other one?
Oh, I can't remember. There's been so many, Rob.
There was, I think it was Tomb Raider, Angel of Darkness, and then there was Tomb Raider Underworld, and then there was a few other things, and then they kind of tried to do a soft reboot of Tomb Raider by remaking the original game for the PlayStation 2, I think.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. 3? The reason why I don't like this is I'm basically repeating what I'm saying about Ratchet and Clank here. Plays well enough, but it's kind of soulless. I don't care about any of the characters. It doesn't write them in a compelling way. I mean, it's got interesting mechanics, like you can hide in the bushes and you have a muddy face, and you can pull people in the bushes, which just sounds like the most half-assed innuendo.
That's hilarious.
And then when she's come out of the muddy bushes, her face is all messy, but she keeps on walking and she's not got any mud on her face. And you have a fight with a leopard. It gives you a bad back.
That just sounds wrong.
Yeah. But, yeah, I just don't care. It's a free game. It was part of PS Plus a few months back, and I thought, I've got it for free. I may as well give it a go. I've already paid for it. It doesn't cost anything to try. And even then, it's just... there's nothing compelling about it. I don't care about the character. Admittedly, it's given a sort of reality to Lara Croft, which is fun. But at the same time, it's just... there's nothing about it which has any sort of... like a game which... Games tend to have like one thing where it says, this is who we are. This is what we're going for. This is what we're going to try and do something new and fresh with. You get me?
Yeah.
Or go back to like an old thing and bring back an old thing that we used to love. Tomb Raider, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it's just another Tomb Raider game. And that sounds horribly cynical, but that's all you can really say. It is just another Tomb Raider game, and there's too many of them.
See, this is the sad thing, right? When the original Tomb Raider games came out on the PlayStation 1, You had Tomb Raider, and then you had Tomb Raider 2, where they added new mechanics to what Lara could do. Then they had Tomb Raider 3, where they added even more mechanics. I think they added the swimming mechanic in 3, was it?
Yeah, 3 is probably the best Tomb Raider there was, I'd say.
And then after that, they did The Last Revelation, which was a bizarre game. I think that was about Lara being a kid again. Then they did Tomb Raider Chronicles, and then Angel of Darkness, and then Legend, and then Anniversary, then Underworld, and then they rebooted it. I think Anniversary was the soft reboot, and then they rebooted it on the PlayStation 3.
Was there a point to you saying all that, or you just
because
you had the Wikipedia up and you thought you were going to make use of it?
No, I've actually played all of the Tomb Raider games in the main series, and I mean all of them. And now that I had to get it up because I couldn't remember which ones I'd actually played. Turns out I played them all, and I thought there were more games in the series than there actually are. And the thing that puzzles me about Shadow of the Tomb Raider is that, even in Rise of the Tomb Raider, is that a lot of the stuff that they're doing is stuff that they already did in one of the previous games.
Just another Tomb Raider game.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Tomb Raider could vanish for until PlayStation 6 and Xbox Heebie-Jeebie edition. And honestly, I wouldn't really care. I don't think many people would care, really. Because it doesn't really set any house on fire. It's just more of the same.
Yeah. I mean, if they did something where, say, there was a game where maybe Nathan Drake and Lara Croft, they were both playable characters in the game.
That's the funny thing, it was supposed to be effectively a Tomb Raider game. The original Uncharted.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be a male companion of Lara Croft, but it kind of morphed into its own thing.
Yeah, but I mean, can you imagine if Nathan Drake had to go against Lara Croft to basically get the treasure, and the game was basically you could either play as Lara Croft or as Nathan Drake, and you'd play it from their perspective, and you had to beat Lara to the treasure, or Lara had to beat Nathan Drake to the treasure. That would be an interesting spin on the whole idea.
Yeah, I think Uncharted gets a pass because it values characters so much.
Yeah,
and its gameplay is kind of secondary to the character and the arcs, whereas this is just everything everything is secondary to everything.
Everything secondary to Lara being able to somersault over things and swing off things, and I don't know, suddenly be able to push really heavy blocks in various puzzles. You're like, Lara, you've got skinny arms. Where are you getting the arm strength for this?
Yeah. Tomb Raider's got an awful lot of mileage out of the female character being kind of cute.
Yes,
and this is another one.
Yes, it has. Oh, right. Okay. I think I'm going to round things off with
more negativity.
No. With some positivity. I'm going to round things off and tidy things up nice and neatly.
Just before you get into that, I don't hate games, right? This is your first time listening. This might come across as me really hating games. I've just had a bad month of bad games. That's all. Bad month of bad games. I'm sorry.
Right. Look, it's time to tidy up, okay? And this could easily be called was it Marie Kondo or Maria Kondo? The game?
Yeah. If it doesn't bring you joy, get shot of it. That's Marie Kondo.
Yeah, it could literally be called that. And all I can say is hats off to Ben Esposito and Annapurna for releasing this. Donut County. It's a strange, short game that is kind of zen. It only lasts about 2 hours, right? But during those 2 hours, it's as if you've tidied up everything in your life nice and neat, and you're free of all the clutter, and you've basically reached a state of calm that you just wouldn't achieve normally. You sit there because everything is clean on the screen. There are no random rocks or frogs or
so it's
chickens
the video game equivalent
snakes.
of I can't be bothered tidying up. I'll just kick all of this under the rug.
Yeah, basically, yes. Quite literally is. I mean, there is kind of a story there. Basically, there's two friends, Mira and BK. BK is a raccoon. BK has taken over the local donut shop, and when the problem is that when BK sends, when they've got an app on everyone's phones that they can order a donut from, but BK doesn't send you a donut. He just sends the haul from the donut.
That's scam.
And the reason why he does that is because he's trying to reach level 10 so he can get himself a quadcopter. And then he can brag about it with everybody. But the problem is, most of the story takes place, I think it was 999 feet below the town, where all of the town has kind of wound up, and all of the inhabitants of the town have wound up because of all the holes, because people have been ordering donuts using BK's app.
Okay. Spoilers, Rob, come on.
No, this is, like I said, it's about 2 hours long, and I'm not going to go into, it literally does tell you this right at the beginning of the game, so it's not really a spoiler, right? But the thing is, you keep playing the game, not just for the zen-like feeling that you get from cleaning up a level, as in, like, cleaning up everything. Plants, birds, animals, snakes, whatever, they're all in the hole. And you get
a reverse Katamari.
It's kind of a reverse Katamari because you start with a small hole and you end up with a big hole. That sounds really wrong now that I say that out loud.
Hey, well, we've got innuendo in this episode, Rob. So that's fine.
Apologies to anyone who fell for that innuendo. It wasn't intentional. But anyway.
Apologies to anybody's offended by big holes.
It is kind of the reverse Katamari, and this is going to sound really wrong even more, but it's also about how you can use the hole that you got.
Yeah, I've not helped him, have I?
You haven't helped at all.
Well, that's fine.
I mean, there's bits where, you can basically swallow a campfire, then swallow some coals, and the hole can shoot fire. Because of you, it's sounding even more wrong now. It was perfectly innocent before you.
So, right, never play Slime Rancher because I've got some jokes about that too.
Anyway, Donut County, right, there's some things about Donut County that are just, the level of creativity that's gone into these aspects of Donut County is just like, it's one of those games that I will go back and play when I'm just feeling down and blue and I just want to while away a couple of hours.
So it's like the Jackie Chan of video games.
It's like the Jackie Chan of video games, yeah. The dialogue in it is really charming and really funny. But I think the really key thing is the Trashopedia. Reading the entries on the Trashopedia makes me chuckle and smile all of the time. Because
so if ever right, there we go. If ever we're going to do like a documentary mini-series as part of this little family of shows we've got going on, that's its name. It's going to be called Trashopedia. It's a spin-off from News Trash. Sorted.
Yeah. But the Trashopedia is basically everything that falls in the hole gets an entry on the Trashopedia. But the entries are written by BK. And BK is sardonic and willful and really doesn't give a crap about what the object is. He's just going to give his own opinion on what the object is, even if it's not accurate or correct, or possibly even politically correct.
Okay.
And that's what makes the entries really funny.
So you liked it a lot?
Yes. I will say to everybody, have a garbage day.
Screw you, Rob.
The game actually, after you complete each level, the game says, have a garbage day. It gives you a nice little flower motif with it as well.
Alright, okay.
I'm like, okay.
Okay, so that's it for this month. We'll be back in May, bloody hell, with a new episode of the stuff that we've been playing, otherwise known as Games Marmalade. But until then, please do subscribe. Check out our Patreon, Spotify link for the podcast is down below. But for now,
bye.